So good morning YouTube, it is I, Danielle, better known as Danielle the Happy Medium, and in this viewer's question answered, we're going to talk about evidence, what is good evidence, and why good evidence is important in mediumship. So thanks very much to the question again from my lovely lady in the States. She does give me quite a few questions there, and it's testing my knowledge, I have to be honest with you on that one. And in her question to me it was, Danielle, why is evidence important? Why is it important that we bring good evidence to the forefront? And how do we know it is good evidence? So let's sort of break it down. So the first question she gave me was, what is good evidence? So every medium works differently, as I've spoke about here on the YouTube channel, and if you watch me on Facebook and things, you'll know that I talk about every medium is unique in its own right, all working with different clairs, and all spirits are individual and unique in their own right as well. So they've all got their own story to tell. So when we talk about evidence, evidence can be a mixture of many different things. And I tend to find as I've been in the movement, there's a couple of different types of styles of mediumship that I'm saying. So I'm saying what I would call the storyteller medium, and then I've got the evidence-based fact medium. Evidence-based fact medium tends to be a medium who will give you structured names, dates, addresses, with very little personality of the communicator. Then we have the storyteller medium, as I like to call it, and the storyteller medium will tell the story of the communicator, the life in which that they had. So for example, they may talk about their personality and how they were as a person here to the earth, which is really good evidence, because then we're getting to hear all about how Mum was as a person, what Mum was like, you know, how she did things here on the earth plane, which is really, really nice. But what I've tend to find as I've been through the movement is that people like a mixture of both. So they like to hear a bit of the personality, but they also like the facts that back it up there. So when we do the storyteller medium link, it can be very interesting. It's really quite good. We might, like I say, get to know all about Mum's personality. We might get to know that Mum had one foot smaller than the other, which would make very unique, you know, sort of information. Or Mum might have lost a finger because of, you know, a work-related accident or whatever it may be there. So this makes it, you're building a picture of Mum, but you're also adding in little bits of quirkiness that was Mother there, which can make for a beautiful, beautiful piece of evidence there. Neither one, storyteller nor evidence-based fact medium, is wrong. It's just that different mediums work different ways. But when we're watching any kind of demonstration or if we're taking a sitting, we do need some evidence in here, because what we are as mediums is providing or proving that the soul continues to live on even after this life there. So if we were to go over to the evidence-based fact medium, I'm a mixture of both. I can storytell and I can do evidence-based. It depends on which communicator I'm working with, in which way my team's working with me that day, or where I'm working. It just depends. But when we do evidence-based, you're looking at names, you're looking at addresses, you're looking at maybe what they did for a living. We could be looking at telephone numbers. We could be looking at particular shops in which that were in the family and what was in the shops. We could do some remote viewing, and I am going to be doing a video on remote viewing, and that's going to be coming in next week there, with connections to where, if anybody's watching me demonstrate, I go into houses, I can pick out certain sort of aspects of the houses, the wallpaper, the colour of the carpets, you know, where Mum and Dad sat. I could describe, you know, the settee and the colour of the settee, which is really good evidence there, which is because of the fact that that is what the communicators wanted to give me in order to be able to build the picture of the storyteller, of all of the communication and how that person lived here to the earth. So evidence is really important when we're working. When we do to get really weak evidence, it can be quite genetic. So you're looking at, you know, your little grandma, you know, and well, you know, there's nothing wrong with grandma. Grandma's 5'2", she got grey hair. Most people that's probably watching this video is going to be able to take that in some sort of capacity. We're looking to strengthen that evidence, pull that evidence apart and see what else is in there in order to be able to give that evidence. Now, if we were to take the grandma style here, what I would say to you is yes, I know baking, and probably the generations of baking, and that was a generation of you know, my family. What we could do is still bring that evidence in, but we would bring the story in around that evidence. So i.e. grandma would have baked, I don't know, cheese scones, but in that will be a story of the cheese scones. So there will be something funny. There'll be a reason why that's being brought in. So it could be that grandma put the wrong cheese in, or that there wasn't enough cheese and granddad had to go to the shop and granddad was called, Tony, and this would make that small piece of evidence that looks really sort of weak and generalized a lot bigger, a lot brighter, and a lot more in-depth there, which would make your ordinary genuine grandma turn into a beautiful storytelling, evidential piece of information. So all we're asking you to do, or what I'm asking you to do, is when you're giving your evidence, look deeper inside of that evidence. Look to see what else could be in there. There will be a story, and the reason as to why this communicator who's come from the spirit world is talking about them things. Could be that grandma's, mixer blew up and it blew all of the house down, or it blew all the electrics, and these are the funny story. I'll give you an example. I was on a demonstration last night in Bishop Auckland, and there was a particular father who come through, and he was telling me the story of his life. That he must have been a good teller of a story when he was here on the earth plane. And at first his daughter couldn't take that. He'd had a bit of a little bit of a altercation with the law. So I went back and I said, come on then. I says, you've given us that. Why are you giving us that for? And then he showed me a Ford Escort car and he gave me the number plate of it. And his daughter was just gobsmacked looking at me. And I went, your father was actually stopped by the police for running for a light that was off at the back. And she went, she says, I can't believe you're talking about that. She says, there was a story in the family about that. And this makes, where the dad had a brush with the law, I'd gone back and getting a bit more and had built it out into a massive story about how he'd been, and I actually spoke the words that he had spoke in that story, which was, he'd said to the police officer, have you not got nothing better to do but chase people down for a break light? You should be out there catching common criminals. And this was the actual story and the evidence that was built in there. So it's important that we understand why evidence is important and why we bring good evidence from the spirit world. Like I say, evidence can come in many forms. It doesn't have to come in names. It doesn't have to come in addresses. It doesn't have to come in that. Memories, I work beautifully on memories, and I love memories, and I think they are things that cannot be made up. They are things that are only of the communicator and the loved one there. So they are another way in which we can bring evidence to the forefront. Also, if we could look at maybe looking at how these people passed, the way in which that they passed, but again, the story around how they passed. So, for example, I might get a gentleman whose grandfather passed with lung cancer, but there will be a story, the backstory of that lung cancer. So maybe he wasn't aware that lung cancer was going on, but family was telling me he should go to the GP and speak to the GP. GP's name was Mr. Bradley, and that surgery was on Fines Avenue, number 62, which is what we're talking about, which is where it's been plain ordinary lung cancer, is now built into a beautiful story with evidence packed in there with it. So when we talk about evidence, make sure that you're always striving for that little bit more there. And it is there. It will always be there. It's just whether or not your mind is open enough in order to allow that evidence to come in. Now, when we talk about demonstrations, one-to-one work, and we hear people say that, there's bits and pieces here that they can't take, I wouldn't say this is lazy mediumship. What I would say is that this is where the communicator, which is yourself, doesn't know, because unfortunately in families, we do not know everything. Now, I'll give you a little bit of an example on this. I took a sitting about maybe 3 years ago in my nana, as you know, is in the spirit world. And I wasn't aware of this piece of information. My nana had a little boy on Northumberland Street, which is a big high street here in the northeast of England. And unfortunately, the little one didn't end up staying here to the earth plane. Now, I've been in this family 38 years. I've never heard that story, nor have I ever been told that story, but a medium told me about this story. And I was like, I don't understand that. I don't know what you're talking about. Never heard of it. And she said, look, she says, I can guarantee you it's true, right and correct. And I went, well, fair enough. So I took that information back to my mother, and my mother validated that piece of information. So what I would say to you is make sure that you do not dismiss information and you do not turn away information. Always go away and check your information. Why? Because it makes damn good proof of a message. It is not lazy mediumship. It is not that you're trying to get out of it. It's unfortunate that sometimes people just don't know this stuff. And because of families, and especially if we've got bigger families, when the spirit world come forward, they're not just always talking about the communicator who's sitting in front of them or the loved one that's sitting in front of them there. They want to talk about everybody, because I know through personal experience, and most of you who are probably watching this video, that when I get with my mum or my dad or my brother or whoever it may be in my family, I don't just talk about me and them, I talk about everybody. You know, we talk about, have you spoken to my auntie lately, or, you know, how is she doing? You know, why would it be any different in the spiritual world there? So be careful when I hear people say that, you know, you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that and you shouldn't have information given to you to go away and check. I'll give you a prime example of one of the biggest pioneers in the movement. And this gentleman did big things for spiritualism with connections to the SNU movement and everything that went on within the SNU movement. And this gentleman would say, go away and check your information. And I've actually done this. I've actually done this on demonstrations of mediumship in churches and on my own private demonstration. I've given people information and made them go away and ring family actually while I am still in the building. And they've come back to me and told me it's true, right and accurate. And while I know that it may not be validation in the room, and sometimes you say people want major validation in the room, and you have to watch your ego there with that one, because that's saying to the spirit world, I want pure instant validations in this room right here right now. And you're then dictating to the spirit world what you want and what you don't want, or you're trying to tell the communicator what to do. And that's not what mediumship's about. Mediumship is about bringing forward the evidence that they believe is for the best of the loved one here to the earth plane. So what I would say is, anything to do with evidence, always try to push for that stronger evidence. This takes a little bit of time and it takes some practice. Don't worry if you're not getting it first time. Just keep practicing, keep trying, making sure that, you know, you're just allowing whatever comes into your mind to come in there, and don't let certain things that people say put you off, or people say that your mediumship's sloppy or it's lazy or whatever it may be there, just because you're asking somebody to go away and validate a piece of information. And you know what it is? 9 times out of 10, it tells you everything that you've been speaking to the spirit world, or that medium's been speaking to the spirit world, because if you didn't know it and it wasn't in your auric field, then they couldn't have gotten it from anywhere else but the spirit world. So for the lovely lady in America who asked me this question about evidence and what is good evidence and why we need good evidence, the honest true answer is we need good evidence in order to prove survival. We need good evidence in order so that the communicator and the sitter understands exactly who it is and why it is that they're there. And three, because it's important in all aspects of mediumship. And if you learn to grow and evolve and keep strengthening and pushing, then there's no reason why you can't be that evidential medium that everybody else is. So I've been Danielle, better known as Danielle, a happy medium. I am on YouTube this evening at 7:30 doing a Q&A. So if you maybe want to come along and bring your questions, I will endeavour to answer all of them. I do try to answer as many as possible. For all those who are sending me videos or questions for videos, I should say, I am working on it, I promise. And, you know, I'm one of these mediums who will answer any question that you give me. I do not just pick out what I feel is important and dump the rest. That's not how Danielle functions. Danielle will endeavour to answer each and every question. May take me a while, but I'll get there. So I thank you very much for all the new subscribers and the new followers. This video is a little bit longer, but evidence is really important when it comes to mediumship, and making sure that you have validated evidence as well as evidence that is needed to be checked out. And I don't think there's anything wrong in either or there. So I've been Danielle, better known as Danielle, a happy medium. I hope you're enjoying the video. Leave me some comments in the box. I'm sure you'll give me some likes on the video. And I'll be seeing all of you lot very, very soon.